So, as you can see from the title, I am now a university student. Last year, October 2025, I took a big leap and went back to university. And that is the main gist. That is the main topic for this video. But before I talk about starting university, I want to talk about how my year started. What led me to going to university in October? Because if you had watched a few of my vlogs in the past, you know that I work. There were times where I used to travel to London for my work, and there were times where I worked from home. So what happened to that job, and now, why am I a student, and why am I going back to university at 26? And that will also explain why I've gone missing on this channel for more than a year. I did post a video a few weeks ago. I titled that video Celebrating Friends, but those clips were actually from February, March, April last year. So the videos are old. They are not recent videos at all. Now, I started January very excited. I remember crossover service. I was filled with excitement. I had a lot of goals for the year. I had career goals. I had content goals. I mean, in January, if you've watched some of my vlogs from last year, I rebranded my podcast. I did a photo shoot. I dropped the first episode talking about my perspective on salvation. I did another episode in February for Valentine's Day where I had my friend Jemima and my friend Ademola on the podcast. I was on flames. I started with passion. One of the career goals I had was possibly increasing my salary at my current job or getting another job that will increase my salary by 50%, or 50% was the goal. But even if it was just 10% increase, 20% increase, that was my goal. And I thought it was achievable. It was a reasonable goal because at that point, I'd been in my role for slightly over 2 years. I had over 2 years of experience. I should be able to get a job. Anyway, that was the plan. Come February now, towards the end of February, I lost my job. Yeah, I lost my job. That was a shocker. Now, in the past, when I've told my friends this story, they tend to say, Mercy, you're very dramatic. You saying you lost your job sounds like they fired you or something dramatic happened. Because the truth is, I did leave the job. But it still feels like a loss to me because I was not planning to leave the job at that point. But there were circumstances that made it make sense for me to leave. I remember the week I quit. The week before, I'd had a meeting with my manager, my new manager. And in that meeting, some things were said that I literally quickly turned off my camera and started crying. I went into a meltdown. Now, if you know me, I know how to take feedback. It's actually one of the things that my manager used to say to me. We started this job as 4 juniors. We're apprentices anyway, but we're very much junior staff, right? It was 4 of us. Well, actually 6 of us. Everybody left, or some people were kicked out. Some people quit at some point for whatsoever reason. That was not me. But you see, this particular feedback took me by surprise. I felt like a rug was pulled over my leg. It just came as a shock. I was so shocked that I started crying. Anyway, the meeting ended on that Friday and I cried from that. The meeting happened around 3 p.m. I cried from 3 p.m. into the AMs the next day. Anyway, I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning, was about to go about my day. In fact, that day I remember, I think it's either 13th of February or a day after Valentine's Day. My friends from church in London had organized a Valentine's Day thingy, right? And I was meant to go on that Saturday, but I couldn't go because I was not feeling well. But my friends forced me. They were like, girl, if you don't make your way here, they were not taking no for an answer. They were like, you have to be here. Drop on that train, get out of bed. I tried to explain to my friend that I had a hard day at work yesterday. Around that time, my grandma was sick as well. I said, my grandma is sick. I'm not clinical. She was like, girl, we'll talk about it. We'll pray for you when you come here. So I got up from the bed, and I was getting ready to go for this Valentine's Day thingy. I was traveling from my home city to London. It was a long travel, about 1 to 2 hours travel. Tell me why I fainted. I passed out. And when I woke up from passing out, I knew it was because of the emotional distress I experienced at work the day before. Come Monday morning, I quit my job because I don't play about staying in spaces that drain me mentally, spiritually, physically, or put stressors upon my life. Bear in mind, this job, a lot of things that happened at the role, but I was still perseverance. I was like, yeah, I need to get my experience. I need to I can make it. I will succeed. Rise and shine and give God the glory. Glory, praise the living God. I was like, I am a star. I must arise and shine. Even if the circumstances surrounding this role did not meet my expectation, I can do it. But when I fainted because of my job, I was like, yep, I'm not doing that. And so I quit my job. I left. Usually you're supposed to give 2 months notice. I was like, 1 week. That's all I'm going to do. But thankfully, even though I felt distraught, I was still able to leave the job on a good note because I had a meeting with another manager and it was like, Mercy, I know you feel this way, but it's always good. No matter how you feel, it's always good to leave on a good note. I was just like, oh, okay. So I left on a good note after all. And, we had team lunches and they wished me well. They got me gifts. They sent some money to me. So it was a great time, but I still lost my job. So I lost my job. I left. But to me, it still felt like a loss because that was not in my plan. Even though I was not satisfied with some of the things that were happening in the job, I was still willing to wait till half of the year. My plan was to leave the job mid-year last year, July 2025, hopefully gotten a job by that time. The standard rule of don't leave your current job until you get something else. I wanted to do that, but when my mental health was going in hell and I was passing out, I was like, yep, it's time to go. So I lost my job. That was the beginning. That was the beginning of the horror of 2025. Lost my job, but because I have over 2 years of experience working as a data analyst, I was like, surely I'm going to get a new job. Surely. I didn't. March, I was still very hopeful. April, okay. May, okay. Rejection upon rejection. I have an Excel where I used Google Sheets where I used to track all my applications. Rejection. Some did not even respond back. Ghosted. A lot of the jobs I applied to ghosted me. All those people you see on TikTok that they say that if I apply for any job, I must always get the interview. These are the acts I use. I watched all those videos. It didn't work for me. I used AI. I tweaked my CV. Do you know how many CVs I had? I had an entire folder on my laptop. There was a folder for each job application. There was a CV for each job application. I did everything. Applied on LinkedIn. Applied on all these third-party job sites. Applied on tech job sites. Applied on Indeed. I hated Indeed, but at some point I was desperate. I applied everywhere. At some point, I was like, maybe I should apply for an AI apprenticeship, maybe a level 7 apprenticeship. Even I didn't get those ones as well. At some point, as you can imagine, I was starting to get broke. Savings are gone. All right, by July. After a while, since I was not getting anything data analyst related, I started applying to other type of roles. I started applying to administrative roles. I started applying to customer service. I even applied to warehouse, anything to just get money, because this is over 6 months after I lost my job. Who is giving me money? Where am I getting money exactly? So all those jobs rejected me as well. McDonald's rejected me. I even applied to Audi. They were like, girl, no, we don't want you. I was like, Audi? I can stack a shelf. Look at my CV. I know my CV is data analyst and all this stuff, but I can stack a mean shelf. What do you mean you don't want me? Instant rejection. McDonald's even just ghosted me. So that made it really hard because I was like, okay, if I'm not getting data analysis jobs, why am I not getting these other ones as well? It was really, really, that was sad. I remember my birthday last year, June 28th, 2025. I was actually sad on my birthday. I took this picture. And the only reason I took that picture was because I have this rule that I must always celebrate every milestone. I'm very big on celebrating every milestone. And I told myself, you are very unhappy on this birthday. You feel defeated. But just go to your local Tesco, buy a cupcake, buy that 26, because I turned 26 last year, and just take a picture. I didn't even if you know me on my birthday, I love to do makeup, do new hair, buy a new dress. At the barest minimum, I'll buy a new dress and go for lunch with my family, or with my sister. If my siblings are not in town, they'll send their wishes and I'll go to lunch with my sister. I didn't even do that one as well. I was at home. I remember my pastor calling me on my birthday to wish me happy birthday. My pastor in London, and he would wish me happy birthday and was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah." I was not okay. He I was like, Messi, are you okay? I was like, nah, I'm not. I said, yes, I'm okay. But it was, you just sound different. Is everything okay? I'm very sure it was the Holy Spirit inspiring him to dig deeper. But at that point, I didn't want to talk about it. So I was like, I just said I was okay. I was sad. I cried on my birthday because I was like, girl, you're 26 and you broke. Like, this was not the plan. This was not the plan. What's going on? Anyway, so that kept happening. Job rejection over and over. Now, at some point from July, August, September, I started thinking that maybe I should pick up on the idea of going back to university. Bear in mind, I dropped out of university in 2022. I was in law school. Life was lifing me. I don't even want to go into details of that. I dropped out. Then I dropped out from university. I was studying law. Then about a year later, I didn't even take up to a year. I was working. Like, I dropped out mid 2022. By February 2023, I was already working in tech. So even though it felt like a setback, I bounced back quickly. And that's when I got that tech role. Now, during this tech role, at some point, I'll get inspired. I'll get a nudging in my spirit that, Messi, I think you should go back to university. But it didn't make sense for me to go back to university. What do you mean I'll leave a job that is paying, well, I can't say pay well. It was paying. Well, I don't know. It was paying okay at that point, especially as a junior working in London. It was paying decently for my level. So it didn't make sense for me to quit that to go back to university, especially because the plans I had then was to just continue building my career, because there are people who don't have university degrees that still do well. So I was like, since I made a mistake based on what was going on in my life at that point and I dropped out of university, let me just chart this new territory and keep growing. But it will keep coming to mind, but I will just push it to the side that, no, I'm not quitting this job to go back to university. But now that I couldn't get a job, I was like, maybe it's time to take up on that nudging I had in my spirit to go back to university. So I was looking at different universities. But after doing some research, I realized that because I had dropped out from a course before, if I went back to university, I won't get maintenance loan for the first year of university. So it didn't make sense. So for me to do that, I need to have saved a lot of money to go back to university. Now, if I was still in a job and I'd made the decision to go back to university, I could give myself a year to save a lot of money so that I can quit my job, then go back to university. Or I can even negotiate with my employer and say, I want to work part-time so I can start university. There's a lot I could have done, but I was making this decision. I was considering this decision fully as an unemployed person that was very broke. So when I heard that news, I was like, oh, if I don't get maintenance loan, I won't be able to survive university. So that I was still thinking about it. And the conclusion I came to at that point was, if I do decide to go to university, bear in mind this is July, August, I still had time. So university had January intake, so I could have done January 2026 intake. That's what I was actually thinking about, January 2026 intake. That I could go to universities in cities where I had family members. So I was considering London, family in London, Birmingham. I have family friends in Birmingham, and also Luton, because I live around the Luton area and I'll be able to commute to university. But I was still hopeful that I can still get a job. Then come September, 7 months after losing my job, ending of September to be specific, there was a particular job that I was very hopeful I would get. And the reason why I was so confident I was going to get this job, in spite of all the rejections I've gotten in the past, was because this job, I moved through the process easily. So I was so confident I was going to get this job. Ending of September, they were like, girl, we don't want you. We don't want you. We don't want you. We're not taking you. I got that rejection email and I cried. That was the first time I cried since I lost my job mid-Feb, and I've been getting a lot of job rejection. That was the first time I cried. Now I cried. That one pained me. And on that very day, I made the decision that, you know what? I'm going to go back to university. Another thing that prompted me to go with the university idea was that I spoke to somebody, in church, and the person told me that they were in the same boat. They dropped out of a course. They went back to university, and they were able to get maintenance loan from student finance because they followed a certain step. That there's a way to do it. Go online, click. They call it compelling reason. Yeah. Tell student finance a compelling reason why you dropped out of your previous course, and if they are convinced, they'll be like, you know what, this person didn't just leave their course because they were lazy or they can't be asked to study, and they will give you student finance. So I was okay, that comforted me. So I was like, let me give it a shot. I thought it was going to be a short process, so I started university, moved to a new city, was living with a friend in October. Then I started university in October. Bear in mind, I'm still broke because I didn't get any job. So I'm still broke. Was living with a friend who kindly accommodated me. Was applying to student finance. They were rejecting it. I dropped the first evidence. I think I sent them. I did that process 3 times. The first time, they were like, yep, your reason is not compelling enough. The second one, yep, no, your reason is not compelling enough. That moved into the new year. So now October, November, December, still going to university, still very broke, applying to part-time job. Please, in the process of applying to part-time job while at university, I got scammed. Well, I almost got scammed. They didn't actually steal any money from me, but that situation really pained me. That one pained me too, because I had seen this job listing on my university website, careers website. I applied. Now that I'm thinking about it, I should have known it was a scam job, really and truly. But I was so happy I got the job. I was so excited. I finally got a job. Bear in mind, this was November. I'd been applying to other part-time jobs at university as well. I was not getting it. I got scammed. Almost got scammed. That really pained me. I was sad. I was really, really sad. I think from September to December, I had a lot of sad moments, not gonna lie, because of the situation. Even though I was now in university, because I didn't have a job, part-time job, my student finance has not been approved. I did not have a personal accommodation of myself. I was living with friends, which treated me nicely, to be honest, but I was still not happy. That even though I was grateful for having community, friends and family support me, I was still not happy that I was in that situation. So I had a lot of low moments. Anyway, then towards, I think, early December or late November, I got an hospitality job. I was doing that job. That job was horrific as well. A lot of early mornings, a lot of traveling. For example, we might have a hospitality shift starting at 9 a.m. and I will have to wake up at 4 to catch the provided transportation at like 5. Then we'll commute. It was terrible, not gonna lie. But I was like, at least I have a job and I'm making money. So that was December. Entered January. My student finance was still not approved. Still going through the trenches. Trying to working my hospitality shifts. Still not happy. Then come February 2026, my student finance was finally approved. Then a few weeks later, backtrack. Sometime in December, I got an accommodation and a friend lent me money to get an accommodation. So I was able to rent a place mid-December and I moved into the place, but it was not furnished, was dry. But now I finally have a place of my own. So that prompted me to start working really hard to be able to make the rent. Now, ending of February, my student finance have been approved. Also, that same February, some other part-time jobs I had applied to, I got them as well. And now I got the role working as a student ambassador of my university. I got another mentoring role as well, which was good. So that was increased income. Will I say I dropped the hospitality shifts? I've not done one hospitality shift since January because, that job it's not for the weak, basically. So February, got my student finance, happy, finally paid all my friends that have lent me money. I paid them back. That was the first thing I did. Properly moved into my current room. Furnished it a little bit. A lot of the things that are here, I had to buy a desk, I had to buy a mini refrigerator. In my coming vlogs, I'll give you a room tour. So things changed in February 2026, which is crazy. Things turned bad in February 2025 and things turned around for good in February 2026. So slightly a year later. Now, in terms of general lessons that I learned, because I love a good lesson moment, I love reflecting on my past, I love reflecting on the mistakes I've made, things I could have done better. Without talking too much, all I can say is that always have a community around you. Invest in your community. Invest in your community because that's really all you have. You have God and you have your community, because it was all through the trenches, all through the hard times of 2025 / early 2026. What really kept me going was God and my friends and family. Really and truly. That's what kept me going, even though I was still sad. But if I didn't have help, I would not only be sad, I would be in the deep trenches. I was in the trench, but without friends and family, I would be in the deep trenches. So I'm grateful for my church friends, for all my friends, family, mom, siblings, brothers, sisters, everybody that gave me money, everybody that lent me money, everybody that ousted me. Ciao. So yeah, that's the big lesson from this era, from last year. Invest in your community, because community is really all you have sometimes. God and your community. And secondly, the second lesson for me is not to be afraid to pivot, not to be afraid to start a new chapter. Because honestly, if I was too afraid, if I was too bothered that I was 26 and I cannot go back to university because of whatsoever reason, I will still grow older anyway. I will still be 27, I will still be 28. So there's no reason for me to allow my age be a blocker to me pursuing a new path, right? If you are on a path and it's no longer working, you can chart a new territory for yourself and you can choose a new direction and a new trajectory. Don't dwell on regrets and your mistakes, because as much as I know now in hindsight that there are things I could have done better to prevent myself from dropping out in 2022, there are some lessons I learned from that era. One of the lessons I learned from that era was dealing with putting too much on my plate. Around that time, I was in university, I was working part-time, I was part of a professional gospel choir, I started a jewelry business, I started a podcast, all while living 2 hours away from university. That was why I dropped out. And I think I've talked about it slightly in one video I made ages ago as well. That was why I dropped out. I was chronically overwhelmed. But also at that time, I did not know how to ask for help. You remember how I said last year, what really helped me was community. Mercy from 2 years or 3 years ago is not asking anybody for help, and it's not accepting any help. Because back then at university, I could have easily talked to one of my university tutor, had a conversation with them that I felt overwhelmed, that I'm struggling with my mental health, and they could have put in structures to help me. That I was in university, I was in at that point, I had spent 2 years at university. Bear in mind, my grades were good. I had a first class when I dropped out. I could have talked to somebody at the university and they could have said, okay, do you want to take a breather? Do you want to take 1 year off? Should we give you extensions on your assignment? Do you need 3 months? Do you need to go to a hospital? Do you need to go to a counselor? They could have done a lot for me, but then I did not believe in asking for help. So I was like, I'm feeling overwhelmed, struggling with my mental health. I'm just going to drop out. So from that situation, I learned a lot, and leaving that situation, one of the things I prioritized was asking for help, and I focused on building my friendship. I remember speaking to a friend of mine, Grace. Shout out to Grace if you're watching this. I was talking to her about a situation, and I was thanking her for being a safe space for me. And then she responded that she's very proud of me because she remembers about 2 to 3 years ago, I was telling her that I wanted to be a better person. I wanted to be a better friend. I wanted to learn how to be vulnerable and ask for help and allow people help me, and just be an open person, not be an avoidant with the heart of stone. Right? And she said that I've really done that with my friendships, and she's really proud of me. So yeah, that is the final lesson. Don't dwell on your mistakes, learn from them and move on. So yeah, guys, that's the life update. I'm doing so much better now. I'm back on YouTube. If I look at me, I even bought a new camera. I'm filming currently on the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. So expect vlogs from me. I really don't know what to do about my podcast now because as you know, I'm now in university. I used to film my podcast in London in a podcast studio. The podcast studios that are around me are not very affordable. They are £200 per hour. Yep, I'm not doing that, especially as I said earlier, I'm a student living on student finance and my part-time job. So there's no affordability for that. If I want to shoot my podcast by myself in my house, then I won't be able to have guests. But what's a podcast without guests? Will you guys listen to a podcast of just me talking? I know you guys will, but I really want to think about it. I don't want to put too much on my plate. As I said, I have university, I have part-time work. So if I can't do the podcast anymore, that's fine. I'll just do YouTube. I'll do vlogs and sit down videos like this. So, yeah, I'm back. And in terms of university, yes, I didn't even tell you guys University, started university in October 2025. I'm studying computer science. Yeah, Texas. Because I was already working as a data analyst. Women in tech. Black women in tech. And but as well continue on that trajectory. So I'm studying computer science. At the time of recording this, I have 1 week left in semester 2 of first year. 1 week of lectures. And I have my exams and a few coursework due. So basically, first year is done. You guys, I'm telling you about this journey when I'm about to finish first year. Now, I have 2 years to go on this degree, second year and third year, and I'll be carrying you guys along on the journey. So, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, share with your friends. I have a lot of vlogs coming up. I have chit-chat videos like this. I might also still have my podcast if I decide to continue it. If I don't continue the podcast, then I will be making chit-chat videos like this, talking to you guys. Right? I am so happy to be back. Let me not scream in this mic. I'm so happy to be back. Honestly, I love content creation. I love being a creative. I love talking to the camera. I love editing videos. I love creating. I just love being a creator. I love being creative. So I'm happy to be back. Follow along on this journey. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.